Kristen Johnstad. I work with Search Institute, and we were one of the community-based social media companies. And today we're going to talk about a project that's called Inspire to Serve. And so let me give you a little bit of background on that project before I show you more specifically the social media work. This effort, we're wrapping up our third year, and the project was to work with 4 cities to create models that would really engage our faith-based partners in service learning. So how can we build the capacity of synagogues, mosques, faith-based organizations to be more thoughtful about how they connect with young people, how they more meaningfully move from their connection with young people to service, and specifically service learning. So that was the intent of the 3-year project. And one of the things that makes this fabulous and messy is that we really looked at how do we help these 4 cities, these 4 partners, influence 4 shifts. So what you're seeing now in these triangles are the 4 shifts that we tried to help the on-the-ground organizations influence. So on the left-hand side, you'll see service learning and asset building, and those are things that, for those of you that don't know Search Institute, this is core to our work. We've been around about 50 years, been committed to positive youth development for that entire time, and really for the last at least 20 have played a pretty significant role both in terms of research and practice around asset building, which is sort of seeing young people as resources, looking at the strengths that they bring, as well as how communities can be wrapping around young people to help them develop and succeed in life. And then service learning is also an area of strength for Search. How do we help people understand what that really looks like, and what are the skills needed to do that well, and how can it happen in lots of different contexts, schools, nonprofits, faith-based neighborhoods. So the left-hand triangles are our strengths, and we partnered as part of this grant with another national organization called Interfaith Youth Corps. They're based in Chicago. They're they're younger than Search in terms of having been on the around for less time, but they're very savvy and moving really fast. And I'll give you more ways that you can look at their website, and you'll see more of how they've influenced this work. Their strength is really around building a movement of interfaith leaders committed to service. So again, the 2 triangles on the right-hand side is helping. How do we help folks, congregations, synagogues, et cetera, that maybe have only been thinking about their specific faith tradition or strengthening the values within their tradition? How do we help them think across multiple faiths? And how do we use tools that build a movement? So instead of building a bureaucracy and a big top-down coalition, how do we use tools like social media, like storytelling? How do we use networking and bringing people together to build a movement? And again, you'll see a little bit more of that as we share some of the social media work we did. So those 4 triangles represent the 4 shifts that we were trying to influence in the last 3 years of work on this project. And you'll see in the center, part of what we really found is that even though each is sort of different, there's some shared areas of emphasis. All those things need relationship-based approaches, use voice, reflection, storytelling, and again, those are core things that the more we learned about social media and use social media, the more we realized, wow, this is, again, a really powerful tool for those. So let me keep moving along here. Here's just a picture of the 4 cities. If you can't tell, I'm sort of a visual gal. So these, again, were the specific names of the organizations on the ground that committed to building models and working to try and influence those 4 critical shifts that we talked about. Let me zoom in now to specifically the social media funding and what we were trying to do with that. There were two main pieces. And then I want to get you onto the Bridge Builder name site, which is where a lot of the activity has occurred, and then we'll wrap up by showing you that, giving a preview of the interactive toolkit that is probably going to go live by the end of this week. So for our work with social media, what we spent our energy on and some of our dollars was bringing young people and adult allies to a media training that occurred last September. It was about a year ago to this date. And what we really wanted to do, and this media training was coming on the end of a 4-day retreat that Interfaith Youth Corps was already having with their college-age fellows. They do a lot of work with young adults, so 18 to 25-year-olds, and Inspire to Serve allowed them to connect with high school age students. And now, again, Inspire to Serve was all junior high and high school. We brought teams from each of the 4 cities to this media training, and the focus was sort of 3 pieces. You see it in the bullets there. But it was really helping people think about the importance of story and storytelling and what their particular intersection. Why is it that they care about this work? Why is it that they care about service learning? Why is it they care about making a difference in their community? What, if anything, does their faith tradition or does the values that they inherited as a family, how does that shape their view of service? And so they, as part of the media training, they were exposed to somebody that did stuff, and then they went into a lot of small group work where they had to think about their lifeline, the key events that have happened in their life, and then work on choosing a specific event and crafting a story. So it wasn't just sort of oohing and eyeing about, wow, isn't that person a good storyteller? They were put to work in the first half of the day on knowing what a dramatic arc is, knowing how to go back to their own story and highlight certain pieces to make it more compelling and more powerful. So that was a big part of that first day. Everyone was thinking about a story and telling it to a partner or to small groups. Then by the middle of that first day, everyone chose a media format that they wanted to use, and so they could either be thinking about video, and we had national partners for each of these media forms, so they could be thinking, we had flip cams, and people could be thinking about video production, and how do I tell my story through video images. We partnered, and that partner for that was Listen Up, which is based in New York City, and they do video work and film work around the world with young people, youth-led media video work. Our students, the Inspired to Serve students, could also choose to go to audio, and we partnered with a local Chicago-based organization called Vocalo, and they're part of Chicago Public Radio. They, again, taught the young people that decided they wanted to go to that media session, what do we need to know about interviewing and figuring out who's got a story, and how, as we're interviewing, do we help them tell their story, then how would we edit a story so that it could be ready to use on radio or as an MP3 file, audio file. And then the last medium was the print piece, and we partnered with a local organization in Chicago, although they have national affiliates. I'm looking for the name now of the organization. I think it's Chicago I can find that. But they did, again, how might people work on writing pieces and getting feedback on their writing and improving their writing so that, again, those pieces would be ready to share in blog formats, on websites, in a variety of ways. People took about that half day to do some of that skill building, and then they were told that the next morning they'd be back to do editing and production. So by noon the second day, people had pretty rough things that were ready to produce. So, for example, I was in the video group, and we couldn't all be producing our own videos, so we teamed up. There were 3 or 4 of us, and we chose whose video are we going to finish. And I'll show you an example of a young man's video a little bit later on. Then the remaining part of the media training was sort of twofold. One, we had, again, an organization, Fenton Communications, that does a lot on how do you take stories and pitch them to media outlets. And so they did some tips on, how do you access local TV or newscasts to get them interested in your story. And then we spent a good part of the last part of the media training getting people onto a Ning site, which I want to show you now, and really using the Ning site. The Ning site is called Bridge Builders. This was, again, I've already made some little bit joking comments. Maybe it's not a generational issue, it's just my tech savvy, but I knew I was in over my head when all 50 of the young people in the room had their computers open, were building that Ning site in front of my very eyes, and actually were chatting with me even though I was sitting right next to them, and was quite confused to see their chats coming up on my screen when I was like, hey, you could just poke my shoulder and talk to me. But let me now show you a little bit about what the Bridge Builder site looks like. You'll see on these bullets were some of the things that we started building in. We probably started with about 4 of the core things on this site, and as it developed over the last 12 months, things were added. So we started with 50 people and maybe 4 of these bullets, and it's now all of these bullets, and there's almost 2,000 people that are on the site. So now, Larry, you're going to do the tutoring for me to try to go to Quick Start. Bear with me, fabulous people. I know you're championing me. Let's see. Bridge Builder. Oh, if this opens, I'm just going to be so happy that I could share. La, 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 I like to sing while we're waiting.
Kristen, you're so silly.
I'm so silly. So I'm trying to share. Ooh, is it going to work? Can you see it?
Not quite yet.
Oh, Tina's waiting. I can see it on my site, so I'm hoping that it's coming to you momentarily. Can other people see it?
Somehow it looks blocked.
Uh-oh.
Was it a new window or was it a new tab on the same?
It should be. Ooh, it just said close shared application. Sorry, folks. Let me try it one more time. Share an application. I'm seeing it on my screen.
I see it too.
Dina sees it. Does anybody else see it out
I can
there?
see it very well. This is Sarah.
Oh, yay! I can't believe it. I think I'm going to faint now, and Dina will have to take over. Okay, so this was the Bridge Builder site, and like I said, at the last half of the media training, they had a local community social media guy there, and everybody was on, and people were signing up themselves, and they were doing a little bit of walking around, but then you'll see they started loading right away the videos and the writing that they did. So let me just take about maybe 10 minutes to walk around this site, and again, please interrupt me if there's something that catches your eye that you want to see, or if you have a question. I'm not quite savvy enough to get that. Oh, I do see my question bar too. So, Bridge Builders, and you'll see my cursor showing. Oh, you have to see me. This is what I look like for all the people that are. Oh no, never mind. We're not going to do that. We don't want to do that. I'm not going to show you my site. I'm hoping this works. Let's see if we can get it out a different way. So part of what people did right there was sign up to be members. And, it's going to ask. Well, then let me see if I can try it. This is where I had some difficulty before.
Try your password again.
No? Larry, are you still there?
Yes.
'Cause now I gotta get back actually to the main,
Okay, if you, down at the bottom on the right, there's a little widget. If you just click on that arrow,
yep.
it'll send us back to where we were before.
Okay. She doesn't have a little arrow like I do.
Oh, it should actually, I'm sorry, it should be a little stop, a little white square.
Yep. Stop sharing. All right, well so let's try this one more time. Quick start and I do quick just share application, right?
I would make sure that you have your website open already in another window.
Okay. And I'm clicking share versus new application, is that right?
Yes.
Sorry, everybody. Now here's going to be the glitch, if we can see if we can move around on here. I did this before. No. Okay, well, then we're going to I'm going to have to show you some of this, and I can show you something else on the toolkit because we started to pull pieces off. My apologies for this. So on the top you'll see what was really interesting for us, we loaded all of the members that were there at the media training last September on the site. And we started to, down here under Spotlight, we started to feature those folks that were there one a week. And what was great about that is that, one, not everybody got to talk to everybody at the training, but you also got to really learn more about and make connections that you just didn't have a time to make. So having the members on and being able to spotlight over time was a really important thing. The other thing, and I can't show you this, but you'll just have to imagine, is the members started to notice, you'll see groups under there, they started natural grouping. So, for example, Inspire to Serve was there, but pretty soon there were, like now there's actually not as many as I would like on Inspire to Serve, given that we're in 4 cities. There may be 50 people on that site, but if you put high school students as a group, all of a sudden there's 300, or people who work with high school students, like teachers. So having people enter some of their information as members, pretty soon people could start self-organizing into different groups, either by interest area, like works with high school students, or am a high school student, or by geography. So, for example, there's lots of groups that are by city. So people that are doing service or service learning or leadership development can start to find each other, even though they might be members of different organizations or networks. So there's many groups now that are based on cities, so special interest groups in cities, and those have different kind of energy depending on if there's something particularly that's happening. The forum feature became a place for people to really post and talk about specific issues that were of concern to them. So, for example, when I just looked at this forum earlier today, there was a bunch of stuff on service learning connected to Ramadan. So how are young people that are involved in Ramadan and breaking the fast, how do they see that tied to service learning? What types of service learning things are they doing in their communities or on their campus? We had a big piece where you can see, we had a lot on United We Serve this summer as our cities and others were doing interfaith service learning or faith-based service learning across the country tied to that. So the forum is a place where people can post their own questions and reflections or different articles that they would like talked about. Blogs is, to me, and again, I don't use those 2 pieces as much because they feel still a little similar. Some are personal blogs, but there's a fair number of high school students that are actually pulling other blogs off, sort of New York Times pieces or articles that have been recently published that are related to faith-based service or service learning. Let me see. The one thing I was really hoping would happen, I'm just going to click here one more time. No, doggone it. All right, well, tools and videos, which again, there were Jacob, a 15-year-old young man, was one of the young people that actually produced a video that was done last year at the media training with the help of 3 other college students to do all the editing. That was posted and actually circulated quickly enough that our Representative Keith Ellison, caught a hold of that and hosted then a larger interfaith service learning dialogue here in the Twin Cities. So it was only by his office having to catch what Jacob had produced in, a day and a half period. There's other really cool examples of young people that were part of Inspired to Serve that went to this media training and then became, 2 things. One, they started talking about all these skills that they had related to editing and video and audio work that the adults that they're working with had no idea. It just hadn't come up in conversation. So now all of a sudden, they were sharing skills. And so in Philadelphia, the young man that went back and took some of the existing footage and has created several videos that are now up on YouTube and are promotional for his organization. They've had some big events where he's used the skills to use old footage as well as he's putting together a full-length sort of feature film about his 3 years with Inspired to Serve and how he's changed as part of that journey. The last piece, and again, this is the thing that I actually really love the most, the tools section. Just like on Bridge Builders, we feature these young spotlight leaders. We also feature 1 tool a week. And the tools can be everything from like the quality service learning tool that Jean wrote that's on the clearinghouse. That was featured 1 week, and we talked about why it was valuable for this network to know about it. And people could go right to the clearinghouse site and download it. We've created several other, most of the things that we use there are tip sheets, so we actually created a series of them, and maybe because you can't see the tool section, I'm happy to send these out. I either can send them out as files or invite you all to be part of Bridge Builders. Maybe I'll do both. But we created 5 different tip sheets on social media. They're the most frequently downloaded pieces. They help people see, we'd use social media to help listen. We'd use it to collaborate, to engage, to activate. So it gives very specific how social media can be used for specific functions, what are the resources that are already out there, how to get started, and then sort of how to share back on Bridge Builder what you've learned. So a tool a week and tied to somebody on the ground that's using the tool has been an extremely valuable feature. And again, for people in the network, as well as I know when we shared the Bridge Builder site at the National Service Learning Conference, one of the things that Liberty said was, oh my gosh, how can we just make sure that whatever content is in there is also on the clearinghouse? So that's where we're trying to do some of the connecting. With that, let me shift you to this. Are there any questions about this main site specifically? And I'm really sorry that it couldn't be interactive. I guess you can see there's lots of features that.
We're just going to ask if people just go ahead and open a new window and go in themselves and sort of tell them where to go.
I have to invite them to Bridge Builder.
Oh, thank you. Yep. Never mind. Yep.
So let me just, again, in the last 5 minutes or so, show you the one other thing that now we're starting to do. One of the things as part of the grant is that we're creating an Inspired to Serve online toolkit. So now we're starting, and this will go live the end of this week. There's pieces on it that we pulled from Bridge Builder, and we're still trying to really look at how do we keep those connections going. The specific funding that brought this network together is going away, but there's already ongoing funding for Bridge Builders, and we're trying to make sure that it gets linked to this Inspired to Serve toolkit. So you'll see some of the, I wonder if some of this video stuff I can look at. I'll see if I get a funny flag when I try to do this. But I like it, again, it's just, this is trying to pull the best of what we, in some ways what the Bridge Builder site collects the whole thing, and now what we're trying to do in this site is pull some of the best of. So you'll see I just went to the basic service learning, and here's some video footage that gives really a very focused why is service learning relevant for faith-based communities. Again, what are some of the benefits? We tried to make it very accessible and easy for people that might be new, or might be volunteerism and service, but they haven't taught service learning, or they're a faith-based organization that knows something about faith but doesn't know anything about asset building. So, and a lot of the resources that we have either link over to the National Clearinghouse work, or they link to Bridge Builders. So there's some basics, there's some getting started, and again, then you'll see more videos. This is again where we tried to pull the best of videos that really give people a sense, and from all the 4 cities, what does it look like on the ground, and how do people think about, again, since we were looking at 4 different shifts, how is it they figure out what's their focus and what's the pathway in given who they are. We're doing some nice stuff now on quality and trying to, again, really emphasize sort of what that looks like. So here you'll see this focus on how to do the community mapping and the community listening project. So it describes a little bit about this. All the pictures, again, we went through all the stuff that was on Flickr and on Bridge Builder and tried to pull some of the best. And then you'll see other things that are featured on the Clearinghouse, like the project planning toolkit developed by RMC, or the Academy for Educational Development Youth Mapping. We wanted to bring other tools, not this huge bucket, but we're trying to now list up what's the best, some of the best stuff that really is relevant. And then on the bottom of each of these, we also did talk about social media. This listing project's a new tool we created, which will be available for download free. But we did talk about how to use social media in different parts of the service learning process. And so some of this is text now, and we need to actually link in some of the specific, social media tools. That's the work that we're doing in the next couple of days. Keeping it going, you'll see again, we tried to keep this very concrete. So what would people need to know about keeping that service learning cycle going? Storytelling, like I said earlier, is a big focus for this project because we really believe that in being able to tell your story well, you'll be compelling to others, and you'll keep young people engaged because they're really thinking about their own personal connection to this work. A few other tabs there. But this is the toolkit that should be going just live very soon. And like I said, part of what we did was try to use Bridge Builder as this bigger catch-all, and then try to list out from the Bridge Builder what's the best stuff, best video clips, best information, and marry that with other really great stuff that's already out there nationally. Any questions about this site before I'll go back then to the last sort of challenges and where do we go from here? Everybody's so quiet. Let's see if we can. So when I stop sharing, Larry, how do I do that?
Press the little stop button at the bottom, blue.
Stop sharing. Go back to presentation. Gail Brock, laugh at Kristen Johnson. Okay.
I'll do it if she doesn't.
Oh, thanks. So here's a few of the lessons that we learned, and I'll sort of touch on these, and then I'm open to any other comments or questions. For us, again, the media training was a big investment. That was our primary investment of the funding, was getting that content to be very young and getting teams of young people and adults there. We got very high evaluations on the actual concrete focus of people doing the skill building piece and being able to walk away with media pieces that were pretty ready to use. The Ning site was very strong, and as you can see, well, as I told you, sorry, you couldn't see it, but it's grown from 50 or 60 people to, I think it's 1750 now. A big international reach that was not at all anticipated either of the partners, but it makes sense given the technology. So a lot of the members that have joined in the groups, you'll see them in Singapore and in Hong Kong and Cameroon. And it really helped for us to not just do the media training, but launch the Ning site at a retreat. I think Angelia, I think there were others of you that said, bringing young people together for something where they're already building a sense of community and connection and common purpose, common goal. The technology there is a natural because they want to stay connected. A big piece of what made it work was that the IFYC stands for Interfaith Youth Corps, and this was sort of all of the staff. It's a small organization, probably 20 or 30 staff, and I bet 28 of the 30 staff were there. And they knew that their job was to make connections, and then over the next at least 2, 3, 4 months, all the connections, resources, and referrals happened through that Ning site. So people were on daily, and using just the natural relationship building piece of it, but using that Ning site to share resources and to feature spotlight people, spotlight tools, and some of those great partnerships, again, were really helpful at the media training because I think 3 of the videos that have been created since that training have gone on to win awards that are part of these bigger nonprofit media organizations. They're, youth media work. It's not tied to Inspire to Serve, so they keep spreading the message. There's groups on our Bridge Builder sites that are some of our key partners, so Poetry Pals, that has been it's an arts-based organization where we use poetry to do reflection on service learning projects. They have used that site and spread the word more broadly because of what they've been able to learn and share on Bridge Builder. The big gap for us, one of the big gaps was taking it back, the technical assistance back home. And again, maybe this is the last time I put generational gap because it's probably just my technology phobia piece. But I think what happened is that the teams came, young people and adults, and some of the adults that came were tech savvy, but they didn't know as much about the big picture for critical shifts and how was this technology going to get plugged right in back home. Or people that came that knew the big picture but hadn't already thought about how to build the technology pieces in, and were sort of didn't make enough space for young people to have a high profile role. Now that's changing again. The example in all of the cities, young people did something. So the Philadelphia example, I told you about the young man who went back and re-edited a bunch of the existing footage. He's now making a feature film. He's done several small PSAs for the organization, and they will be building in a media team into their work for this coming year. So he sort of made it happen on his own. In St. Paul, for example, the young people that came they weren't super big technology media champions themselves, but they got the skills to be able to tell their story, and they saw the value, so they partnered with an organization called Girls TV, which is a youth-led girls group. I think that's mentioned in that third bullet. And they said, well, we can't figure this out this year, but let's partner with Girls by TV to keep that the storytelling piece and capturing what we're doing going, and they're also going to be building in local media strategies in the coming year. Some of them were already using certain tools, so the Ning site felt a little different, and again, maybe it was hard to get a real feel because we didn't look at it as much, but it is an older student body, so I think the high school students, as they build their own strength and confidence, they'll feel a little more comfortable sort of posting and mixing it up with some of the college students that sometimes seem a little more savvy and articulate. And so the hiccup was not having it streamlined right into the program operations, but there were little ways in all of the cities that people use media tools, and there's a commitment in several actually to keep finding ways to make that a more significant part of the work. These last slides actually were provided totally by the Interfaith Youth Corps staff. I'll give you Amber's name is on the next slide, so you can be in contact with her. She's the person that was going to be, she's sort of the lead bridge builder person again, even though all their staff has an expectation to be on and using. But she's found these particularly helpful. And here is her contact information. She's happy to be in touch with you all, and I would be more than willing to, I can invite you all to the site so that you can go on and check it out yourself if you'd like. No pressure to do